welcome to the Oakles channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. Today, focus on a game called Antz with a Z for the Game Boy Color. Now, it's based directly on the film Antz from like 1998, 99, somewhere around in that range. I've never actually seen the film. As a kid growing up, we saw A Bug's Life, and then Antz came out, and I sort of thought it was like a ripoff of that, or like a, I don't know, a B studio or B movie version of it. And I could be totally wrong about that because it's a DreamWorks movie, and DreamWorks has made some true classics over the years, like Shrek and Puss in Boots and Wild Robot, and then also the sequel to Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, which is like one of the best animated films I've ever seen. So maybe perhaps I'm not giving Antz enough credit here. You can let me know in the comments down below. Is it a movie I should watch at some point, or is it a movie I can just simply continue the rest of my life and avoid? But regardless, this game here is a platforming game, and it's pretty below average for the most part. The controls are a little bit floaty. I feel like it probably tries to keep the same plot as the film as it goes along, but just simply overall not a great game. It's not like the worst you're ever going to play in the world, but there's probably not a whole lot of reason to go back. But we're going to figure out all that and more as we journey through Antz for the Game Boy Color. Now I can start the videos up with the box art for the game first, and the box art here is pretty much the same as a movie poster. If your main protagonist, Ant, I'm not really actually sure what his name is. It's never mentioned inside the game at all. I think he's the ant on the right, and I think Princess Bala is on the left, but I could be totally wrong on that. But if you're looking for a game that's based on the movie, you knew what you were picking up here. And speaking of that, like, there are actually 3 Game Boy Color games based on the movie Antz here. This is just simply one of them, and so we'll get to the other 2 a little bit later in the challenge. But it's just sort of odd that a movie I felt was like never that popular has 3 individual releases on the system, and you have a game like A Bug's Life, which only had 1 release on the Game Boy Color. And so I don't know, I find it odd, but maybe you don't. And also, why is there a Z for Antz? Is it just simply because of the culture at the time, where Z was like the cool thing to put in like the late 90s, or is there a reason from the movie that there's a Z instead of an S on the close of Antz? Let me know in the comments down below, because that's another mystery of Antz that I do not have an answer for. And speaking of mystery, there's another huge mystery coming up inside this game that I cannot figure out why it's in this game, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But overall, to cover here, you like the movie, you know what you're buying for the game. Now when you load the game up here, it does begin to pan from the anthill down below to the protagonist Ant standing on the ground up above with the title of the game and the film at the top. And it's pretty much a direct reference to the movie poster at the time. I do remember seeing this at the theaters. And then we begin stage number 1, and before every stage, it's going to give you like a little single image cutscene, a little bit of the story down at the bottom here, sort of probably follow off the film and sort of keep the overall events of the game connected. And so our very first cutscene here does tell us to find the foreman, and we immediately start off inside the anthill. And the anthill is not like really aesthetically pleasing, but I mean, it is a dirt anthill, and you're going to spend like half of the game in this anthill, so it's going to get old pretty darn quick. But A is jump, B is to throw a pickaxe, and you can collect more of these throughout the level. It's not unlimited. And then also, if you want to collect like little hearts to expand your health, you can do that. There's also like a little ant head you can collect for an extra life, a little hourglass you can do to get the time to stop. And so there's a few little power-ups and collectibles you can get. Oh, and there's also keys that you can collect. If you collect 3 keys, you actually get a password to save your game as you're progressing here. And there's at least 3 keys in every level, but it's not required to get all 3 keys in order to save your game. Like, you can get 2 in level 1, 1 in level 2, and that's when you're going to get the password in order to save your game. You don't have to collect like all 3 in one individual level. I know a lot of Game Boy games at the time were doing something similar to that. But as you're going through here, the controls are a little bit floaty. They're not perfect, but they're not like so bad it's like an unplayable game. It's just something that you are going to notice. Now, as far as like core enemies go, you're going to have these little raindrops that fall from the ceiling, but you're also going to have these little hermit crab enemies. And I am like totally baffled here. Like, why are hermit crabs inside the anthill? It like doesn't make any sense at all. I even like looked up on Google here as far as like, are there hermit crabs in the movie Antz? There are not hermit crabs, so either I am misunderstanding what this enemy is, or they just simply added hermit crabs in here for no particular reason. They look very similar like to the hermit crabs in like Kirby's Dream Land. And I know I'm really like picking the pieces here, like the idea of a hermit crab inside the anthill, but they literally put this hermit crab in probably, I'd say, 75% of the levels of this game. They simply change the color every now and then. So clearly they liked the hermit crab. They really wanted him in the game, and there's not a lot of enemy variety. So like the hermit crab was chosen above almost all else. And so I just simply cannot figure out what is the purpose of this hermit crab. But regardless, you can kill him by throwing a pickaxe at him, or just simply hop on his head. If you hop on his head, you get like a little extra jump boost at the same time. So there is some benefit to that. Also, as you're going through the level, you're going to find like little rings, very much like the Sonic games. However, when you collect the rings, it simply tallies them up like coins in Mario. And if you collect 100 rings, then you get an extra life. And the extra lives are fairly valuable in this game, because you get 1 continue, and after continue, you have to pretty much start the entire game over, which is pretty unfortunate. So you are going to want to collect those keys and keep an eye on your lives as you go. Now, as you go through the level, you eventually find the foreman at the very far right end. You simply walk up to him and the level comes to a close. Then we begin stage number 2 here, and it says find 6 ants and make the demolition ball. And pretty much the same as the first stage, pretty much the exact same aesthetics. You do have some giant rocks that fall down from the ceiling from time to time, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty much identical to the very first one. And you simply have to find 6 ants sort of scattered throughout the stage. And when you find all 6, they make like a little ant ladder here, and you journey all the way up to the top, which I'm fine with the overall mechanics here of, finding them to make the ladder. However, the title of the screen said, make a demolition ball. This is not a ball, this is a ladder, and I do not understand why they said make a demolition ball, because it just simply makes no sense. Now, stage number 3 says we were in a bar, there was a fight that broke out, and the princess has run away, and the cutscene image shows us sort of dancing, singing a song, and it just simply doesn't line up with the tragic events that went down here. But regardless, we journey through yet another anthill with yet more hermit crabs. They did change the color, so they are beginning to mix it up a little bit. We do have a few new enemies, though. We do get army ants journeying through the level to try to stop you. The army ants, I think, only appear in this level, so it's sort of a waste of an enemy here. Take 3 pickaxes to take them out. Also have a little snake that throws his little poo at you, and I think he's only in 2 levels, so once again, another wasted opportunity in order to stuff more hermit crabs into the game here. And the big, gimmick of this level is little bouncy leaves. You hop on the bouncy leaves, and you simply jump higher up in the air. I think you get 3 jump boosts on a bouncy leaf, and then you jump to the next one, so forth and so on. And so, a little bit of a mix-up in the gameplay, but for the most part, you're still in the anthill, still journeying through, and there's not a ton of difference. Now, stage number 4 takes a twist in the story that I'm really not exactly sure how it all came about. It says we need to march in the army line in front of the princess in order to see her. And since I'm not an army ant, I have to go to a guy named Weaver in order to swap identities with him in order to march in the parade. I may not be getting the story exactly right. It was very confusing in the sentence structure here, but that's what it seemed like for me. But overall, the level's pretty much exactly the same. It's a little bit more poorly lit to try to mix the aesthetics up just a little bit. As you're going through it, there are hermit crabs, so do not worry about that. And at the end, you have to find Weaver in order to close the level out. Now, stage number 5, evidently our infiltration of the army was successful, because now we get wrapped up in an actual army fight here. We're fighting against a giant termite in the picture. Really cool picture, but have no fears, we do not get to actually have that cool action inside the game. The closest we get to a termite is inside this level, little pinchers come out to try to grab you as you're going by. You never actually see a full-blown termite in this level, but overall, the aesthetics for this one, they changed it to a red background, and this is the best looking level inside the game. I would actually be fairly satisfied if the entire first 5 or 6 levels, since they're all in an anthill here, just took this overall red aesthetic, because it looks really good on the Game Boy Color, and I don't know, it's just simply the best level thus far. And I almost forgot to mention, the hermit crabs are green for this level, so they are there. Now, stage number 6 here, it says we are the only survivor of the battle, and Mandible, who I guess is the general of the army here, is upset and says now we need to run away from him in order to escape. So now we have a purple background for the anthill, otherwise pretty much the exact same aesthetic, and there are more spikes that you have to avoid. Now, the overall gameplay of the level is a little bit different, even though the aesthetics are not. And so you basically start out the level by falling through this giant passageway, collecting as many items as possible on the way down. Almost has a little bit of a bonus level feel. But when you get to the bottom of the pit, you journey off to the left, have to climb the entire tower over, and then you have to jump over a little ledge here that was not accessible earlier in the game because you're just simply doing a free fall, and you continue on through the level that way. There's no real enemies in this level. You just simply get more items as you go, and it's a little bit different, as far as gameplay wise compared to the rest of them. I wouldn't call it a full-blown puzzle level, but it is more I guess less straightforward than some of the ones thus far. And I do need to mention, this is the first level in the game thus far that did not include hermit crabs, but have no fear. They are not gone. They just simply avoid them in this particular stage. Now, stage number 7 says that we got away and we need to find Insectopia. But as far as the image on the screen goes, I'm not really sure. Is it the princess talking or is it me talking? Because the ant looks a little bit different. It looks a little bit like a princess, but I'm not positive since I haven't seen the film. And so we possibly have found the princess. I'm not really sure, or she may be in Insectopia. Now, for this level, we finally have a change of pace. We are no longer stuck inside of the anthill, and now we're more like a grassland or a garden. You can climb the plants in the background, hop from leaf to leaf, and you can also hop on different bees and different wasps or insects as you go. You also find a giant ladybug that you can hop on the back of and journey across little spikes and whatnot. And so the gameplay for the first time has mixed up quite a bit. It's a little bit more open-ended because, you know, it's just simply a open sky above you, and you can journey pretty high in the little plants here. And so you're not constrained by the anthill ceilings and whatnot. But overall, you know, it still feels like a normal, below-average platformer. Now, stage number 8, we get our first boss battle here. It's a giant magnifying glass that comes down trying to burn you up of sorts. And I have to say, like, this level actually took me several tries in order to get through because I didn't really understand what to do. But you simply have to keep throwing your pickaxe at the magnifying glass, and after enough hits, you win the battle. And so, not a super difficult boss battle, but it did take me a few tries to figure out, like, what I need to do. Now, stage number 9 says we need to convince the princess to follow us. And we're back to the plant aesthetic again, and we're also back to having hermit crabs in the game. I know we missed them so much. Those 3 stages without them was almost a game breaker for me. They're purple now, but for the most part, this level is the same as the last one, Journey Through the Plants. Stage number 10 here says we need to find Insectopia across the river. And I was expecting a scene or a level here where you're crossing the river, but no, you're journeying through yet another plant level, just like the last one. Pretty much no difference. Green hermit crabs this time instead of the purple ones of the last level. And then we get to stage number 11, which actually says we're going to cross the river, and the gameplay mixes up very, very slightly here. You have to hop on this giant purple leaf and sail down the river, and ever so often you have to hop off the leaf and journey through like a little maze up above with the plants, and then get to the far right-hand side of that and fall back on the leaf. If you're not fast enough, the leaf will continue on leaving you behind, and you will lose your life there. And I do have to mention, like, anytime you die in this game, you have to start the entire level all over again, which is a pretty big deal because some of these levels are fairly long, and have to start the entire level over is very annoying. But this level here, it does mix it up a little bit. And stage number 12, we get our second boss battle of the game. Instead of a giant magnifying glass, we have a giant shoe. Or I guess it's not like a giant shoe, it's just a regular shoe since you're an ant. And it's trying to squish you. Just simply throw your pickaxe at the shoe. This is a lot easier than the magnifying glass level because I sort of knew like what to do. It's pretty much the exact same overall gameplay of the last boss level. And then stage number 13 has the most disappointing cutscene I think I could imagine. It says, now we must leave Insectopia because the princess has been kidnapped. And it's like, we never even got to see Insectopia. We crossed the river, we saw Insectopia from a distance, we did all this journey to get there, and now we simply are leaving Insectopia with no level at all of the actual, paradise and whatnot. But regardless, the princess was kidnapped by Colonel Cutter, and now we have to leave Insectopia in order to find them. And talk about like a true wasteland here. Like once you've experienced the wonders of Insectopia and you journey back out into the real world, now you start realizing like all the trash that's out here. You see like, like little cans off to the side or bottles anyway, and then you also see like little apple cores scattered throughout. Just a real junk land out here. And I guess it just goes to prove once you've seen the best, like Insectopia, the rest of the world is going to look like true garbage. And then stage number 14 says they didn't like the water, but they really don't like flying. So of course we're getting a flying stage. You're on a yellow jacket here, and you're simply journeying through, taking out some of the other enemies that you've seen throughout the game thus far. They also throw in a couple spiders here. I think it's the only spiders in the game, but it's mostly just simply collecting better items as you go. And the level does get much faster as you journey through. If you simply stay at the top of the stage, you can avoid the vast majority of them. So not too hard of a stage, but they do mix the gameplay up, which I do appreciate. And I feel like they probably could have put a few more flying levels in there since they, did the programming for it. Why not use it more often than simply for one level? And then stage 15 says we are here at last, and we must sneak in to find Bala. But like, where is here? Like, we've left Insectopia. Is here just simply where Colonel Cutter is? Like, some details are missing. Hermit crabs, they're back. They're yellow this time. We also get a purple cricket who is fairly hard to avoid, but just takes off 1 heart when you're hit by him. But you basically traverse the level from left to right and climb up some vines and whatnot, and then do some fancy jumping techniques across the vines here, and the enemies journey all the way back to the far left. And this is probably the hardest part in the game because like if you miss any of the individual jumps here, you fall back down to the bottom and you have to repeat the entire level over again. Very frustrating. And unnecessarily frustrating, I'll say that for it, because the controls, like I said earlier, are a little bit floaty, and some of the jumping is a little bit off here, and I don't know, a very annoying level. Now, stage 16 says that General Mandible is going to drown the entire anthill. We need to go and warn the queen. So we're journeying through a anthill once again. It's sort of a green-gray, sort of a depressing-looking anthill, but I guess if everybody's getting ready to be drowned inside it, it's a depressing atmosphere. There are some platforms you have to ride back and forth, left and right, and these can get a little bit on the frustrating side when you miss the jump. You have to, repeat a little bit of an area. And of course, the hermit crabs are back yet again. They are green again this time, so they simply rotate the colors as you're going. Stage 17 is pretty much the same. You're journeying through the anthill again, trying to rescue a team Hermit crabs are back, same aesthetic. Now stage number 18, you are still in the anthill. It's beginning to float a little bit more, and you have to ride a leaf throughout the water sections here. Really no different than the last leaf level as far as like gameplay wise. And in stage number 19, your only way out is to build a ladder of ants, and you have to pretty much journey through the anthill and find around 20 other ant workers in order to basically stack them all in the center of the stage and find your way to the exit. And this is very similar to stage number 1, except they actually got the language right here because you are building a ladder instead of a demolition ball like you mentioned in the first stage. And once you build them all up, you do escape out the exit here. And then we have a little cutscene that says General Mandible is defeated, life returns to normal, we're all together with the princess again, and we also have a swimming pool, and life seems to be nice and peachy, except you have to think about it, like all those ants that were still in the anthill that helped you get out, they're still going to die in the flood. So it's not like a really truly happy ending here. And also, like, what a I don't know, jip of an ending, because there are no credits. The only way to get the credits to roll is go back to the option screen, and then you scroll down the options so you get the credits and just simply watch the credits there. And so technically you get the credits to roll without even like finishing the game. But even the gameplay is pretty disappointing, because like you're expecting to have a final showdown with General Mandible here, because like he's built up throughout the game. You're getting ready to fight him here. He's flooding the entire anthill. And instead, you simply get to escape out and sacrifice all your teammates, and he's somehow defeated in a cutscene. And so, I don't know, an overall disappointing ending to a mostly disappointing game. And I don't really know if it's like a direct correlation to like the source material. It just simply wasn't very good. So therefore, like the game itself really couldn't, outdo the source material. But then you got to think about like so many games out there that just simply don't have any story that are phenomenal games. And then you realize like source material really doesn't matter. And this could have been a good game if it just simply wanted to branch off and not just sort of be a shovelware or a cash grab to cash in on the movie itself. Because you know what they're doing. Kids went and saw the Antz movie. They want to play the Antz game. Here it is, $30, down the drain for the parents. And the kid gets a small amount of enjoyment trying to relive the movie experience. And they knew they didn't really have to make a truly outstanding game here, and they certainly didn't. I'd say it's a 3 out of 10. The floaty controls, lack of variation, especially with the enemies. I mean, the hermit crabs in like every level. There's only like 4 types of level: the anthill levels, the grass levels, the one flying level, and then the leaf levels, which sort of fall into the category of the anthill or the grasslands. And so I'm going to go and say there are only 2 types of levels in this game, and only like 3 enemies throughout the entire thing, and the vast majority of them are all hermit crabs of a variety of colors. And so, I don't know, 3 out of 10, and that's probably being generous. What do you all think? If you ever played Antz on the Game Boy Color, let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above. Go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.